I want you to hold on to that image, because what you're about to see isn't just about a man finding old photos, it's about uncovering the kind of hidden past that many of us secretly wonder about. You see, everyone has memories they keep tucked away, and sometimes those memories don't just live in our minds, they live in tangible things: old photographs, dusty letters, or objects that seem mundane but are loaded with emotional weight. And when you find something like that unexpectedly, in a place as chaotic and serendipitous as a flea market, it sparks a very human reaction, a mix of curiosity, nostalgia, and maybe even a bit of unease. If you've ever wondered what it's like to suddenly come face to face with your own history in such an unanticipated way, this story will resonate with you on a deeply personal level. Now, I'm going to be honest with you right from the start, this video isn't just about showing you the trunk or flipping through old photos. It's about walking with this man as he pieces together fragments of his past, trying to understand who he was and what those images mean for who he is now. And I want you to be part of that journey. Because here's the secret: stories like this don't just happen to other people. They happen to all of us, in one way or another. Maybe you've never found your childhood photos in a flea market trunk, but maybe you've found something unexpected that made you rethink your past or who you thought you were. That feeling of suddenly questioning your own story, well, it's powerful. It's unsettling. And it's exactly what you'll experience if you stick with me through this entire video. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you this: have you ever felt that pull to uncover a mystery about your own life? Maybe you've asked yourself, what happened to that kid I used to be? Or where did all those old memories go? Those questions don't just drift away, they linger. And this man's discovery at that flea market is going to challenge him, and you, to confront those same questions. You're going to see moments of joy, confusion, and even pain, all wrapped up in those photographs. But most importantly, you're going to witness a very human search for identity, belonging, and meaning. Throughout this video, you'll meet the key players in this story, not just the man who opens the trunk, but the people connected to those photos. Family members, strangers, old friends whose lives intertwined in unexpected ways. Themes of memory, loss, and rediscovery will weave through the narrative like threads in a tapestry, pulling you closer to the heart of the mystery. And while I'm going to share clues, insights, and revelations as the story unfolds, I won't spoil everything up front. Because half the magic here is the slow, sometimes surprising way this man's story and your own curiosity unfolds. So, why should you watch all the way to the end? Because the answer to the question you entered this video for is coming. The mystery of how these photos ended up in that flea market trunk, what they mean to this man, and what they might mean to all of us will be revealed, but only if you stay curious, stay engaged, and keep watching. This is more than a story about old pictures, it's a story about the connections between past and present, and the small moments that can change everything we thought we knew. By the time you finish this video, you might find yourself thinking about your own past in ways you never did before. You might wonder about the lost pieces of your story, or the hidden moments in someone else's. That's the power of stories like this, quiet, intimate, but bursting with meaning. And that's exactly what you're about to experience. But just before we jump in fully, here's something to think about. What would it mean to you if you suddenly discovered a part of your own childhood that had been lost or forgotten? How would it change how you see yourself, your family, or even your future? Keep that question in your mind, because the answer is about to come from a place you'd never expect. Now, let's get back to that man and that old trunk at the flea market. The moment he opens it, the air shifts. What's inside isn't just paper or pictures, it's a key to a story that's been waiting decades to be told. And as he pulls out the first photograph, his expression changes, something between shock and recognition. He's holding more than just an image, he's holding a piece of himself that he thought was gone forever. But here's the twist you didn't see coming: the photos aren't all from one place, or one time. Some are familiar, but others feel strangely out of place, like they belong to someone else entirely. Who took these pictures? Why were they stored together? And how do they connect to a secret that this man's family never talked about? This is where the real story begins, and why you can't afford to look away. Because every photo is a puzzle piece, and every piece leads us closer to a truth that will shake everything we think we know about memory, identity, and the unexpected ways our past can resurface. So, if you've ever felt the tug of curiosity, if you love a good mystery, or if you simply want to see how one simple act, opening a trunk at a flea market, can unravel a lifetime of questions, then stay right here. Don't click away, because this story will keep surprising you with every moment, and by the end, you'll see that sometimes, the most ordinary places can hide the most extraordinary secrets. Ready to find out what's inside the trunk and what it means? Stay with me, because the answers are coming and you won't want to miss a single second. Yes, the man stood there, clutching the fragile photographs. 1,000 questions rushed through his mind, each one more confusing than the last. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like a simple moment, just a guy browsing a flea market, uncovering some old pictures, but for him, this was a sudden plunge into a past he barely recognized anymore. You see, in the weeks leading up to this moment, his life had been anything but simple. He had been restless, trying to piece together fragments of memories that felt like fading echoes. Work had been stressful, and his relationships strained under the weight of things unsaid and forgotten. There was an unshakable feeling that something from his past was waiting to be found, something he couldn't put into words but felt deeply in his bones. And somehow, those photos in that weathered trunk were the key. What made the moment even more puzzling was why he had ended up at that particular flea market in the first place. It wasn't a place he usually went to, he wasn't the kind of person who hunted through old junk or dusty memorabilia. But just days earlier, a cryptic message had arrived in his mailbox, with no return address, only a short note. Look where it all began. At first, he had shrugged it off as a prank or a mistake, but the phrase kept echoing in his mind, growing louder every time he tried to focus on his daily routine. That's what led him to that flea market, wandering through rows of forgotten treasures, until he spotted the old trunk. He could almost swear it called out to him, like a piece of his own story was waiting inside to be uncovered. But here's where things start to get tangled. The photos weren't just random childhood snapshots, they seemed carefully selected, almost curated, as if someone had gone through decades of memories and chosen the images they wanted this man to see. Among the pictures were faces he recognized, his parents, a childhood best friend he hadn't seen in years, even a few family members who had long since disappeared from his life. Yet there were others, strangers whose eyes held secrets, shadows lurking just beyond the edges of the frame. One photo showed a house he didn't remember ever visiting, and another featured a man with a face too familiar but impossible to place. It was as if the trunk was a puzzle box, and every piece was meant to throw him off balance just enough to keep him guessing. His relationships at home added another layer to the mystery. His sister had been distant lately, avoiding calls and brushing off conversations about the past, as if she was guarding some secret she wasn't ready to share. His mother, too, had grown strangely protective of certain old family albums and letters, insisting they were best left forgotten. And his closest friend, the one person who had been with him through every rough patch, had suddenly become evasive about a particular event from their teenage years, something the man sensed was connected to the photos but couldn't quite pinpoint. These were the people who knew him best, yet they seemed to be circling around the truth without ever fully revealing it, adding to the tension that was tightening like a noose around his sense of reality. As he dug deeper into the images, more questions surfaced. Who sent the mysterious note? Was it a family member trying to open old wounds, or someone else entirely, maybe even a stranger with a hidden agenda? There were whispers of old family disputes, rumors of lost inheritance, and stories of a secret that had caused rifts and long silences. Could the trunk have been planted there, at the flea market, by someone hoping he'd find it? Or was it simply a coincidence, one of those strange moments where fate steps in and shakes everything up? Every lead seemed to spin him in circles, forcing him to wonder whom he could trust, and whether the past he was uncovering was more dangerous than he ever imagined. The atmosphere around him shifted too. Flea markets are chaotic places, full of people looking for bargains but also hiding their own stories, their own secrets. Among the crowds were vendors whose eyes lingered too long, shoppers who seemed to know more than they let on, and occasional glances that sent chills down his spine. Was someone watching him? Had they followed him here, waiting for him to open the trunk and reveal what was inside? Every sound, every face in the crowd, seemed charged with unspoken meaning, and the man found himself caught in a web of uncertainty where even the simplest choice could change everything. And just when he thought he might get a moment to breathe, A figure emerged from the shadows of a nearby booth, a woman with a knowing look, someone who might hold pieces of the story he desperately needed but feared to hear. Was she an ally, or another part of the puzzle? Her presence sent a new wave of questions crashing over him, pulling him deeper into the mystery and forcing him to confront a truth that was edging ever closer, ready to break the surface. So as you watch this unfold, remember that what seems like a simple discovery at a flea market is really the beginning of something far more complex, a journey through memories, secrets, and tangled relationships that challenge everything this man thought he knew about his life. And just like him, you'll be faced with choices about who to believe, what to uncover, and how far you're willing to go to find the truth. Keep watching, because the answers are hidden in the layers of this story, and every detail matters. You won't want to miss what happens next, where the line between friend and foe blurs, and the past collides with the present in ways nobody saw coming. The mystery is alive, and it's just getting started. Just as the man thought he was beginning to piece together the fragments of his past, the ground beneath him seemed to shift in ways he never expected. The more he tried to hold on to the clues, the more they slipped through his fingers like smoke. That very evening, when he returned home to examine the photos under better light, he noticed something unsettling. The single most important photo, the one that seemed to unlock a hidden door to his childhood, had vanished. It was the picture of the old house, the one that didn't belong to any place he remembered. It wasn't misplaced or hidden between pages, it was gone without a trace, as if someone had deliberately taken it. That moment sent a cold shiver down his spine. Who else knew about these photos? And why would someone want to erase that key piece of his story? The disappearance felt like a warning, a clear message that some secrets were better left buried. And then, almost immediately, the warnings started coming in. A message slipped under his door, plain and chilling, with just a few words written in sharp black ink: "Stop digging." It wasn't signed, but the threat hung heavy in the air. Friends he thought he could trust suddenly grew distant, phone calls went unanswered, and even his sister's usual guarded demeanor turned into outright coldness whenever he mentioned the photos. The man found himself isolated, surrounded by shadows of doubt and mistrust, unable to decide who was genuinely helping and who was watching, waiting for him to slip up. Every step he took felt like moving deeper into a labyrinth with walls closing in. Was he chasing a truth that was dangerous, or was someone trying to manipulate him into giving up? Then, as if the emotional weight wasn't enough, a forgotten chapter of his family's history came back to haunt him. An old neighbor, someone his mother used to speak about only in hushed tones, appeared unexpectedly, revealing a secret event that had never been spoken of openly. Years ago, a betrayal had torn the family apart, an accusation of deceit, a broken promise, and a sudden disappearance that left wounds no one wanted to reopen. This was the event that had led to the silence about the past, the reason why photographs and memories were locked away and forgotten. The man realized that his quest wasn't just about finding old pictures, it was about unraveling a betrayal that still cast a long shadow over everyone involved. But the neighbor's sudden return also raised more questions than answers. Was this person here to help him finally get to the bottom of the mystery, or to stir up old wounds for their own reasons? But the deeper he dug, the more the past resisted, pushing back with unexpected force. And just when it seemed like he might finally connect the dots, a new twist emerged that no one could have predicted. A mysterious phone call late one night brought a cryptic message that hinted at a hidden connection between the trunk, the vanished photo, and a secret that stretched beyond his family, a secret that could change everything he thought he knew about where he came from and who he really was. And then, in the quiet moments after the call ended, as he sat surrounded by the scattered photos and fading memories, the man realized something chilling. The truth wasn't just hiding in the past, it was alive, watching, and waiting for the moment to strike back. The questions he had chased were no longer just mysteries to solve, they were warnings that the story was far from over. And just when he thought he might find safety in answers, the shadows deepened, leaving him standing on the edge of a secret so profound, it threatened to change everything forever. Now, as you watch this story unfold, remember that sometimes the hardest part isn't finding the truth, it's surviving what comes after. Stay with me, because the next piece of this puzzle is closer than you think, and it's going to turn everything upside down. Just as the man grappled with the chilling realization that his own past might be more dangerous than he ever imagined, a parallel story began to unravel miles away. pulling another key figure into this tangled web of secrets and suspicions. His sister, who had been distant and uncharacteristically silent in recent days, suddenly found herself at the center of a mystery just as unsettling as his own. She, too, received an anonymous note not under her door, but slipped into her mailbox late one evening, the inked message stark and simple: some doors should never be opened. Unlike her brother, who had plunged headfirst into uncovering the truth, she was wary, haunted by memories she tried desperately to suppress. The message seemed like a threat, but also a reminder of the unspoken past that had driven a wedge between them and their family for years. As the sister held the note in trembling hands, a flood of memories came rushing back, things she had long buried and wished she could forget. Her story, intertwined yet distinctly separate, complicated everything. It wasn't just about photos or a mysterious trunk anymore, it was about confronting a family history that neither of them fully understood, and a secret that had shaped their lives in ways they hadn't dared to face. Meanwhile, a new piece of evidence surfaced that shattered the fragile assumptions the man had been clinging to. An old diary, discovered in the depths of a forgotten attic by a distant relative, contained entries that contradicted everything he thought he knew about his family's past. The diary spoke of alliances and betrayals, of promises broken and loyalties tested, but the most disturbing detail was the mention of a third person, someone who had disappeared without explanation and whose name had never come up before. This shadowy figure was linked to the vanished photo, the mysterious house, and the very trunk that had started this whole journey. Suddenly, the mystery expanded beyond the man and his immediate family, dragging in new characters whose motives were unclear and whose presence raised the stakes higher than ever. Was this missing person a key to the truth, or another piece of the puzzle designed to mislead and confuse? The diary's revelations forced everyone to question what was real and what had been carefully fabricated over time. As these new threads wove themselves into the narrative, trust became a fragile commodity. Friends who had seemed supportive began to exhibit odd behaviors, offering help one moment, only to disappear the next. Conversations were filled with half-truths and evasive answers, making it impossible to know who was truly on the man's side. Even his closest allies were cast in doubt, their intentions shadowed by the growing paranoia that someone was watching, waiting to exploit every misstep. The tension escalated with every encounter, each new revelation pulling the characters deeper into a maze where every turn held the possibility of betrayal. The line between friend and foe blurred into near invisibility, forcing the man and the viewers to question everything. Could anyone be trusted? Or was the entire story a carefully crafted illusion meant to protect secrets that were far more dangerous than old photographs? All the while, the man's sister grappled with her own demons, her storyline a haunting counterpoint that amplified the stakes. Her reluctance to speak, her sudden bursts of anxiety, and the cryptic warnings she received painted a picture of a past filled with hidden pain and unresolved conflict. As she tried to piece together her own clues, the sister became entangled in a struggle that mirrored her brother's, but with its own unique dangers and twists. The two siblings were connected by blood and memories, yet separated by walls built from fear and silence. Their parallel journeys created a tension that was impossible to ignore, a tension that suggested the family's buried secrets were not only personal but potentially explosive, with consequences reaching far beyond their own lives. And just when it seemed like the weight of these revelations might crush them, another shadow slipped into the story, someone from outside the family circle who seemed to have a vested interest in the truth remaining hidden. This figure operated in the background, their presence felt but their identity obscured, adding an extra layer of suspense and uncertainty. Were they a protector, a predator, or something in between? Their actions hinted at a power struggle tied to the past, where old wounds and fresh dangers collided in ways no one could have anticipated. Every step the siblings took toward uncovering the truth seemed to trigger new obstacles, forcing them and you, watching this story unfold, to reconsider everything you thought you knew. As the tension mounted, the question that hung in the air was no longer just about uncovering a childhood mystery or lost photographs. It was about survival, loyalty, and the lengths people will go to protect secrets that could unravel their entire world. With every twist and turn, the stakes grew higher, the characters' motives murkier, and the line between truth and deception increasingly blurred. The story was no longer just a journey through the past, it was a battle for the future, where trust was fragile, dangers lurked unseen, and the answers everyone sought remained just out of reach. As the days passed, the man's world seemed to close in around him with a suffocating weight that was impossible to ignore. What had started as a curious dive into his childhood memories was quickly morphing into something far darker, something that clawed at the edges of his sanity. The first time he noticed it, he thought it might just be paranoia, a trick of the mind playing games with him in the middle of the night. But then the footsteps outside his apartment, slow and deliberate, the faint shadow lurking just beyond the streetlight's glow, left no room for doubt. Someone was following him. And they weren't hiding very well. It was as if the past he was chasing had suddenly turned into a predator stalking its prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The thought made his heart race and his mind spiral into a whirlpool of fear, but despite every instinct screaming for him to run, he felt tethered to the truth, pulled deeper into a darkness he wasn't sure he could escape. Then came the disappearance, something so sudden and so personal that it shattered any illusion of safety he had left. His sister, who had been battling her own fears and secrets, vanished without a trace. One day she was there, silent and distant but still part of his fractured world. The next, she was gone, leaving behind only a hastily scribbled note with a single cryptic sentence, "They're closer than you think." The message was both a warning and a plea, and it twisted inside him like a knife. Panic mixed with helplessness as he called friends, relatives, even the police, but no one seemed to know where she had gone or why. The disappearance felt like a loud explosion in the quiet storm of his life, a desperate signal that the danger lurking in the shadows was now real and immediate. Suddenly, the photos, the notes, the vanished evidence, all of it wasn't just about uncovering a family secret anymore. It was about survival. His thoughts became a tangled web of anxiety and suspicion. Every familiar face turned into a potential threat, every friendly gesture felt laced with hidden motives. The man found himself questioning everything he had trusted before, the seemingly helpful ally whose advice now felt like manipulation, the old neighbor whose sudden appearance seemed less coincidental and more calculated, even his closest friends who avoided eye contact and gave vague answers. At night, he lay awake, haunted by the flicker of movement outside his window, the quiet creaks in the house, the possibility that someone might be watching him even now, waiting for him to slip up. The line between reality and fear blurred until it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. The urgency to find answers was matched only by the growing paranoia that the answers might be the very thing that destroyed him. And just when it seemed like the weight of it all might crush him, the man received a message that shattered what little calm he had left, a direct threat, delivered with chilling clarity. A text on his phone from an unknown number, a message that left no room for misunderstanding. "Stop digging, or you won't like what happens next." The words burned into his mind, echoing in every silent moment, turning his every move into a calculated risk. It was no longer just about uncovering a mystery, it was about outmaneuvering an unseen enemy who knew his every step, who was determined to keep the past buried at any cost. The threat wasn't just about fear, it was a statement of control, a reminder that he was now trapped in a game far bigger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. In those dark, tense moments, the man was forced to confront his own vulnerability, his need for truth battling with the very real danger it posed. His mind raced through every possible scenario, every memory that could hold a clue, every person who might be involved, while his heart hammered with the fear that the next move could be his last. The uncertainty gnawed at him, a constant reminder that the story he was chasing wasn't just about uncovering forgotten photographs or old family secrets, it was about surviving in a world where trust was scarce, danger was ever present, and the past was a shadow that refused to let go. As you watch this unfold, remember that the darkest truths are often the hardest to face, and sometimes, the closer you get to the light, the more the shadows fight back. The mystery is deeper and more dangerous than anyone could have guessed, and the next chapter could change everything in ways no one sees coming. What will happen next? Who is really behind these threats? And will the man be able to find his sister and himself before it's too late? The story is far from over, and the stakes have never been higher. Stay tuned, because the answers you're looking for are wrapped in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered, but only if you're brave enough to keep watching. Just when the man thought he had reached the edge of his unraveling sanity, ready to surrender to the growing chaos, the story took a turn so unexpected it shattered everything he, and everyone watching, had believed up to that point. It wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows or a cryptic note that pushed the mystery into darker territory this time. It was someone he trusted with everything, someone whose presence had been a quiet comfort in the storm of confusion, his closest friend, the one who had stood by him through years of ups and downs and who had seemed genuinely invested in helping him uncover the truth. Late one evening, as the man sat in the dim light of his apartment, poring over the remaining photographs and notes, his friend arrived unannounced with an expression heavier than he had ever seen before. What came next wasn't just a confession, it was a revelation that rewired the entire narrative. His friend admitted that he had known about the trunk and the photos long before the man did. In fact, he revealed that he had been the one who sent the cryptic messages, the warnings, and even the threats. The motives were tangled, a desperate attempt to protect the man from a dangerous truth that could destroy not just their friendship but everything they both held dear. It turned out that the mysterious figure who had disappeared years ago was not a distant relative or some shadowy stranger, but someone intimately connected to their shared past, a person whose actions had set off a chain of events that rippled through their families and friendships in ways no one had dared to talk about. The trunk, the photos, the notes, they weren't just artifacts of childhood. They were pieces of a cover-up, carefully placed to keep secrets buried and dangerous truths hidden. This twist forced the man, and all of us watching, to question everything we thought we knew about trust, memory, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. The friend's revelation wasn't just shocking because of the betrayal but because it exposed how deeply intertwined the mystery really was, how personal and painful the hidden layers ran. Suddenly, the man's quest wasn't just about reclaiming lost memories or finding a missing sister, it was about confronting the fact that those closest to him had been playing a part in the unfolding drama all along. The lines between victim and accomplice blurred, and the stakes soared to a new level where the cost of uncovering the truth might be more than he, or anyone, could bear. As the truth settled like a heavy fog over the room, new questions surged forward like relentless waves. Why had his friend taken such drastic measures to keep him from digging deeper? What was the real story behind the vanished photo and the house no one remembered? And most importantly, could the man ever truly trust anyone again, or was he destined to navigate a world where every smile hid a secret and every ally was a potential threat? The entire mystery now felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, each revelation reshaping the picture in ways that kept twisting and turning. What had seemed like a straightforward journey through childhood memories was actually a labyrinth of deception, fear, and fragile loyalties, and the next steps could lead to salvation or complete ruin. This wasn't just a story about the past anymore, it was a living, breathing puzzle where every choice carried weight and every shadow held a secret. And as the man grappled with the betrayal that cut closest to the bone, the question remained, how deep did the conspiracy go, and who else was hiding in the darkness, waiting for the moment to step out? As you watch this story unfold, remember that the greatest mysteries often hide in plain sight, and the truth can be stranger and darker than anything we imagine. The answers are closer than ever, but the path to them has become more twisted and dangerous than anyone could have guessed. So keep watching, because the next chapter might just change everything once again, and what you think you know might be exactly what you need to question the most. With the weight of betrayal pressing down on him like a physical force, the man found himself trapped in a suffocating maze of impossible choices, each one more agonizing than the last. The friend's confession had shattered the fragile trust he once held, leaving him isolated in a world where every relationship was suddenly suspect. Now, the man faced a gut-wrenching dilemma that tore at his heart and mind. He had to confront this very friend, the one who had been both his closest ally and his most unexpected betrayer. The confrontation wasn't just about unearthing facts, it was about facing the raw, painful emotions tied to years of friendship that were now tangled in lies, secrets, and half-truths. Every word exchanged carried the weight of years lost and promises broken, and the man wrestled with feelings of anger, confusion, and a desperate need to understand why someone he cared for so deeply would choose to keep him in the dark, even when it put them both at risk. As if the emotional turmoil wasn't enough, the stakes escalated rapidly when the man received an ultimatum that left no room for compromise. A new message appeared, this time not a vague warning but a clear, cold demand: abandon the search for the truth, walk away from the past, or face consequences that could end far worse than mere fear or uncertainty. The choice was brutal and immediate, forcing him to weigh his own safety against the burning need to uncover what had been hidden for so long. It wasn't just about photos or forgotten memories anymore, it was about survival in a game with rules he never agreed to but now had no choice but to play. The ultimatum twisted deep inside him, each second spent weighing whether to retreat into the shadows or push forward into an unknown that promised pain, heartbreak, or even worse. Every moment became a battle between hope and dread as the man grappled with the emotional weight of his decision. He thought about his sister, still missing, and how giving up might mean losing her forever or condemning her to a fate he couldn't bear to imagine. He thought about the friend, the betrayal, and the complicated threads of loyalty and deception that tied them together. And beneath it all, there was a gnawing fear that whatever choice he made, there might be no way back, no redemption, no second chance. The tension in his chest was relentless, the nights sleepless as his mind raced through possibilities, dangers, and consequences, all swirling together in a storm of doubt and determination. This wasn't just a story of uncovering forgotten photographs or piecing together a lost childhood. It had evolved into something far more real, far more intense, a journey through betrayal, loyalty, fear, and the raw human need to know where we come from, no matter the cost. And as the man stood on the brink of a choice that could change everything, the story held its breath, leaving us all suspended in the uneasy space between truth and survival, between love and loss. The mystery deepened, the risks grew sharper, and the question loomed larger than ever: what would he choose when the price of truth became unbearable? As you watch this unfold, feel the weight of those impossible decisions, the raw humanity of someone caught between what is right and what is necessary. The answers are out there, but the cost of finding them might be more than anyone is ready to pay, and the next moment could change everything in ways none of us expect. The story isn't just unfolding, it's gripping tight, pulling us deeper into the shadows, where every choice matters and no one is safe. The moment the man stumbled onto the full scope of the conspiracy, everything he thought he knew exploded into chaos. It wasn't just a secret about his family or a shadowy figure from the past anymore. The web he had been unraveling stretched far beyond what he could have imagined, pulling in names, faces, and forces that made his blood run cold. People he had trusted, some for years, were suddenly cast in a new, terrifying light. Friends, neighbors, even those who had offered sympathy and support now seemed like pieces in a much larger game, pawns or players who might be actively working against him. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. This wasn't about old photos or forgotten childhood memories. It was about a network of people connected by lies, secrets, and a desperate need to control the truth no matter the cost. The stakes were no longer personal, they were monumental, and the danger was immediate. As he dug deeper, the man discovered that the mystery he was chasing had entangled others far beyond his family, people whose lives were just as invested in keeping things buried as he was in exposing them. It was a conspiracy that seemed to reach into corners of his town, connections that spanned back decades, implicating influential figures and hidden alliances that could topple reputations and unravel the fragile social fabric that everyone depended on. Every new clue sent a shockwave through his mind, each revelation peeling back a layer of corruption, fear, and greed that had been festering beneath the surface for years. The more he uncovered, the clearer it became that his search wasn't just a personal quest, it was a fight against a force that would stop at nothing to protect itself. Then came the ultimate betrayal. Just as the man believed he had found an ally he could rely on, someone who could help him navigate the treacherous waters ahead, that person revealed their true colors in a moment so swift and cold it left him reeling. A whispered phone call overheard, a secret message discovered, or a chance meeting that shattered any illusion of safety, whatever the trigger, it was clear this new friend had been working against him all along, feeding information to those who wanted the past to stay hidden. The betrayal cut deep, not just because it endangered his life but because it proved that in this tangled game, trust was a currency he could no longer afford. Every step forward felt like walking on a razor's edge, the pressure mounting with every second, every heartbeat, the danger closing in like a storm about to break.